I was born in Iran,
Hmm.
and I was there till I was 18 before I came to the US. Um, I was born in a middle-class family, loving parents. They gave me a lot of liberties at an early age, and with that came responsibility. And I think that went a long way to shape my character.
Hmm.
And we moved a lot in Iran,
Hmm.
and that when you move every 3 to 4 years, you restart all your relationships. You get to become good at connecting with people.
Right.
This is a very emotional story for me. It's hard
Hmm.
for me to tell it without tears in my eyes.
Hmm.
So they had managed to work all their life to, because they were in company housing all the time. They were middle class,
Hmm.
but they had managed to finally have enough savings to put a down payment to buy a condo in Tehran so that when they retire, they have their own place to live. They
Right.
returned the condo. They took deposit, and my dad gave it to me and said, "Go make something of yourself."
Wow.
And the war broke out in Iran. My parents lost everything. By now, they had bought their home and all of that. So then I was able to bring him here and become head of household at the age of 24,
Wow. Yeah.
which I think was a great honor and kind of made me who I am.
Hmm.
As much as I love technology, I learned that I love engaging people. I love learning about people. I think there's a universe inside everyone.
Hmm.
And I really mean everyone, by the way. Going from 131 people to 2,500 people, going from $10 million revenue to $450 million revenue.
Wow.
And so that transformation and that success story was obviously very instrumental in changing me and
Hmm.
being hooked on being an entrepreneur. I think it's all about execution. When I look at all these various different experiences,
Hmm.
and I think just like for major companies, they have done a long-term study. What separates the leaders from others is not the IP portfolio they have,
Hmm.
not which market they're in. It's none of those. Think about Apple. It's
Hmm.
execution. It's operational excellence, which for an individual translates to execution. Just one
Right.
area. My point is, whatever you do, when you achieve success and on your way, build a responsible company and take care of the people and the environment because that's the right thing to do.
Hi, viewers. My name is Upesh Jain. Greetings from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm the host of the Exec Talk channel, the forum I started to talk to CEOs, executives, and other luminaries about their journeys and distill their experiences and learnings for our viewers' benefit. Today, we have the honor of talking to Saeid Ghafouri, a Silicon Valley technology and business veteran. His illustrious career spans various leadership roles like president and CEO, COO, chief revenue officer, corporate VP of field operations for a variety of startup to medium-sized companies in the Silicon Valley. Saeed loves being an entrepreneur working with the best and the brightest on disruptive technologies. Throughout his career, he has helped transform small technology companies into major enterprises in diverse markets, from systems and semiconductor to enterprise software, e-commerce, mobile internet, and EDA. Some of the key names he has led or worked for are Cadence, Magma, Silicon Architects, Synopsys, InterHDL, Coware, Movelius, Alpha Wave Semi, etc. I had the opportunity to work with Saeed at Magma Design Automation, where he was the corporate VP of worldwide field operations. While being directly responsible for worldwide company revenue, he would be open to brainstorming and strategizing ways to scale the company, and we worked on some initiatives together. He was always execution focused and had the insight to figure out people's strengths and did so smilingly with his mild mannered, easy to work with style. He has a BS in electrical engineering from Fresno State and holds 3 patents. Saeed, I'd like to welcome you to my channel and know more about you and your life journey outside of our interactions. I'm sure my viewers will be inspired by your story and what you stand for.
Thank you very much, Upesh. This is indeed an honor for me to be part of this video and your journey in doing this. I think it's a great service
Mhm.
for entrepreneurs, which uh, is one of my passions, which is helping entrepreneurs, because I think entrepreneurship creates jobs and helps economies, especially when you look at developing countries, how they transition from being poor and places in the world where terrorism becomes a magnet for kids who have nothing else to do.
Mhm.
You create entrepreneurship, they get they become important people, and all of those problems solve themselves.
Right.
Uh, Besides the fact that every major technology company that you know used to be a startup, and many have gone to transform the society and I think move us towards ultimately towards a better world.
Absolutely. Uh, Saeed, you know, as cliched as it might sound, and I do this for most of my interviews, but I think it's important to do for my subjects. I mean, people who appear on this channel. I talk to them about their early life. You know, for example, where were you born and raised, and what was your home environment like, and your role models. The purpose of doing that is, you know, you can draw patterns in terms of people who've been successful, and you know, also create an example for people uh, to look at and emulate. So, you know, if you could tell me a little bit about your early life, that'll be great.
Sure, I'll be happy to. I was born in Iran,
Hmm.
uh, and I was there till I was 18 before I came to the US. Um, I was born in a middle class family, loving parents. They gave me a lot of liberties at an early age, and with that came responsibility. And I think that went a long way to shape my character. They also helped build my self-confidence. Now, of course, when you become responsible at an early age, you also become self-confident usually,
Hmm.
but they also actively encouraged me by, encouraged me to speak in public, encouraged me to sing in family gatherings. Those are the kinds of things that I think help build characters. And I think self-confidence has been a big part of my success, which I owe it to my parents.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, my early and we moved a lot. My father worked for Iranian oil company, which was a government entity,
Hmm.
and we moved a lot in Iran.
Hmm.
And that when you move every 3 to 4 years, you restart all your relationships. You get to become good at connecting with people,
Right.
and I think that was lucky for me because it helps in the business life when you're able to connect to people and make new relationships all the time.
Right. And I think one more thing, it allows you to deal with change
Oh
in a
yeah,
a very normal manner, so to speak. You accept it and then deal with it, right? So,
absolutely.
which is life in general, right? And up until today, change is the only thing that's constant. So that's great. So I take it your parents were your role models, and you know,
Yeah,
um,
they were exactly. They were my role models, and if um yeah, they were my role model. I learned a lot from them, although I didn't know it at the time. But
yeah,
later,
of course.
learned what a huge impact it had on me and the rest of my siblings. There's 5 of us. I'm the oldest.
Right. So Saeed, then at 18, I take it you came to the United States for education, or how did you arrive here? And can you tell me a little bit about your journey in the United States and the early years here?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So I actually wasn't planning on coming to the United States. I was planning on going to universities in Iran.
Hmm.
And I think it was luck, given what happened to Iran later on, um, that I was a good student, and I moved away from family at the age of 16 to go, because we were in small towns always.
Hmm.
Live in Tehran for in my last 2 years of high school, so that I could um, improve my educational basis, so I'd have a better shot at getting into engineering schools. I always was technical. I was reading scientific journals since I was 8, and I was always drawing on designing things on paper. um so I did well in fifth grade at the time. It was called so it's like 11th grade and 12th grade. I discovered girls, and my GPA dropped to like 16 out of 20, which is how they were doing it then, instead of 18 or 19 out of 20. So it was like a B, which and as luck, and I'm calling it luck, would have it, that year was the first year, because they had this massive entrance test, because university capacities were much more limited then. So you had 300,000 applicants, and capacity for 30,000 in all. Now the top universities with engineering was just a fraction. So I did quite well on the entrance exam to universities, but that year was the first year they had decided to not only look at your score on your entrance, but also your last year's GPA, which I had dropped to B.
Hmm.
And I still got admitted to a few universities, but not the ones I wanted, not the ones, nothing engineering. And so I went and talked to my mom, who proceeded to talk to my dad. I said, listen, this is not for me. I want to become an engineer. Send me to the US.
Hmm.
And they huddled, I mean, not in front of me.
Hmm.
And this is a very emotional story for me. It's hard for me to tell it without tears in my eyes.
Hmm.
So they had managed to work all their life to, because they were in company housing all the time. We were middle class,
Hmm.
but they had managed to finally have enough savings to put a down payment to buy a condo in Tehran, so that when they retire, they have their own place to live. They
Right.
returned the condo. They took deposit, and my dad gave it to me and said, "Go make something of yourself."
Wow,
So
that's beautiful.
that's how I came here, which
Hmm.
obviously is significant responsibility. Um, but you know, um, I believe, and maybe these are the reasons that obviously foundation of my belief is that you give love and you will receive love.
Hmm.
As when I came, it was December of 1975. This is before the Iranian Revolution.
I see.
And the 747 jet that was coming nonstop from Tehran to New York was filled with 18-year-olds like me, meaning maybe 90% every day. So the relationship was awesome, and a lot of kids would come here to go to school. So I came here, started my school. I did well in school, and then we had the revolution and the war last year of my college before I got my bachelor. And I went to Iran one semester before I finished to see what happened. And I saw what happened. I decided, okay, this is not good. I came back, and I had learned that I cannot rely on what's happening there anymore. So I decided to go work instead of, you know, pursuing my master's and PhD, which is what I planned. And I had studied digital logic, I mean, with emphasis in digital logic and electrical engineering. So I started as a chip designer, which was really hot at the time.
Hmm.
Made it easy for the company, it was Data General, to get me green card. And the war broke out in Iran. My parents lost everything. By now, they had bought their home and all of that. So then I was able to bring him here and become head of household at the age of 24,
Wow. Yeah.
which I think was a great honor and kind of made me who I am.
Hmm.
My journey.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. I mean, and in some way, was a way of showing your gratitude to them, and you can never repay the debt that parents have, that what parents give you, but it's a small step towards that, right? So,
Exactly.
Said, I saw on while I was doing the research, I saw you had three patents, and you also went to a party school. So you must have been a good student that you had three patents and survived a party school.
Yeah, I worked hard
Uh-huh.
and played hard in school.
Okay.
A lot of fun
Uh-huh.
and made lifetime friends, some of which we are together after all these years.
Okay.
And the patents are uh, all after that. In fact, when I was on the business side,
Mhm.
working with entrepreneurs in startups, one of them is in solar because I've done many different industries. And so, and when you work together, even as the CEO, when it's a small company with your engineering team, and when you are sharing ideas and working, and in small companies, everybody does everything. And so that's when the patents came about, not when I was a design engineer.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
So it
Thanks.
was because I've stayed technical because I enjoy technology. Regardless of the fact
Mhm.
that I'm on the business side, I still enjoy technology.
Yeah, actually, that segues into my next question because, so how did the metamorphosis from engineering to business development and management happen? At what stage and what was the motivation?
Good question. As much as I love technology, after being uh, a chip designer from 1980 to 1985 for really 5.5 years because I changed midway,
Hmm.
um, I learned that I love engaging people. I love learning about people. I think there's a universe inside everyone.
Hmm.
And I really mean everyone, by the way. Um, and when this startup company called ECAD had created a program called LVS, layout versus schematic, that was automating this. We had a manual process of comparing layout to schematic, which took 2 weeks by two engineers, and it was error prone. Now here we are running this program, and overnight, it would give us the result, and it was 100% accurate, right?
Right.
So you could find all the problems, and that was intriguing, and it also uh, woke me up to the world of software, as well as, and then they came after me. They convinced me to join them,
Hmm.
and the position was to build the field application engineering team. And I thought, well, that's one step closer to the business side. It
Hmm.
helps, get to know customers better. And also, I'm making a strategic move from hardware to software. And and I thought this is gonna someday it will basically all that automation someday will eliminate the need to have design engineers. So I better be on the tool side.
I see.
Now, that didn't come through in those days, but I think with AI it probably will.
Hmm.
So that's how I made the move to a company called ECAD, which later we went public, we bought SD, and that's how Cadence Design was born. So
Right.
that was the reason I went from engineering to basically first step was building the field application engineering, then ran my first sales job at Cadence. I had the largest account, and and I was quite successful at it, and
Okay.
so that's why I kept on the
On the
business
business
side,
side. Yeah.
yeah, and then grew it, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
And
Yeah.
Cadence was my first startup, by the way.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, So you seem to be attracted to early stage or middle stage companies. If you look at your, you know, work life, I mean, um, first of all, is that true? You seem to be attracted to.
That's absolutely true.
Mhm,
And the reason is, I think you can get a lot more done in a smaller environment.
mhm,
And I'm still romantic about this. I really believe that despite all the problems that technology has created,
mhm.
I think net, it's still a positive. I'm thinking about vaccines, right? I'm thinking
Right.
about their
Mhm,
uh, and think about all the automation. And so, um, all the major players that we know of used to be a startup, right?
absolutely.
Think about Google, right? Think about eBay, Nvidia.
Mhm,
Every major company we know that in technology world has been a startup. So if you either started or be part of that early days,
right.
you can have a lot more impact, uh, an impact to the society,
Yeah.
which being a romantic, I think is cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it also takes a certain DNA, I would say. You know, a lot of people don't want to risk it. Uh, they're more risk averse and uh, are kind of stumped by the uncertainty of startups, right? But some other people like yourself perhaps thrive in early stage companies where they're just attracted to the randomness and the possibilities, I would say. And is that an accurate statement? I mean,
Yeah, it's really thrilling to basically be part of um, a movement, right? Or it's really a venture, not a
mhm,
movement. Being part of a venture where you are working with amazingly bright individuals who have the same common goal,
mhm,
to, which is to make an impact
right.
and for the better, to bring something that makes a significant change. And all of these, and of course, these are, we are in the engineering world.
Mhm,
But in the scientific world is similar. People who have, this made all these discoveries, or think about theoretical physics, like,
right.
relativity, quantum mechanics.
Mhm,
All of these came as disruptions. And to this, I think it's the same when you're working in a technology startup, or not just limited technology. Anybody who makes a change for the better, the environment is electric,
right.
and the team is amazing. And then when you create success and you're able to scale it, that's
Mhm,
when that comes, when you can scale it, which is kind of what I have evolved to do, which is help smaller companies scale. Um, that it's a joy, right? It's a thrill, and it's a joy that you see you made a difference,
right.
right? It's a lot of satisfaction that comes with that.
Right. So, what were some of your uh, greatest experiences? If you have any anecdotes, do you want to share those? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think my first startup, ECAD, I was number 131, company at $10 million revenue.
Hmm.
From that, and also transforming myself from a technical person to the business person. Um, you know, when I left 8.5 years later, we had gone through so many acquisitions, and because before moving to sales, I was building the field application engineering. So every one of them, I was involved with those acquisitions because
Hmm.
field is important, right?
Yes.
And um, so when I'm going from 131 people to 2,500 people, going from $10 million revenue to $450 million revenue,
Wow.
and creating actually the largest creating an industry, because before that, there was no industry called EDA. It was
Mm-hmm.
just collectively called CAD.
Right.
And Joe Costello coined the term EDA, electronic design. I remember the day he had that discussion.
Right.
And so that transformation and that success story was obviously very instrumental in changing me and
Mm-hmm.
being hooked on being an entrepreneur as opposed to work for a large company for life. And I'm not saying that's bad,
Yeah.
but this was, I found that's for me. Um, and after that, it was a few other ones like Silicon Architects, which is
Mm-hmm.
my startup, which we ended up selling to Synopsys 2 years after I joined for 10 times revenue, which was, obviously a good exit.
Mm-hmm.
But the part that was really transformative for me was learn how to do very complex sales and business development, right? Because it
Right.
was the first IP licensing. It was very early in IP licensing days in semiconductor. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're negotiating royalties and a bunch of money up front, you have to really understand the business of the customer in order to not only justify, but also come up with what royalty makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
that was quite interesting. And then being CEO for the first time, when I moved from Synopsys to InterHGL to run it,
Mm-hmm.
and successfully having a really good exit in a very short amount of time. Um, and then my first failure, I moved to the internet world and I failed, like most people did. But that failure was a huge learning experience for me. And after that, I ended up going to Magma, running worldwide sales for a
Right.
public company. So you have to execute every single quarter.
Right.
And I built it from 40 million to 212 million by making the numbers 23 quarters in a row.
Right.
That was an amazing experience, right?
And I
And
was
so,
witness to that one. So,
yes, yes,
yeah.
that's what I meant.
So, so you basically find a sweet spot in these medium to early stage companies, middle
Right.
to early stage companies, and then probably leverage the skill set you have and the values you go by. So that brings me to the point that,
Let
what?
me answer you asked about anecdotes, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Please.
Um, I think it's all about execution. When I look at all these various different experiences,
Hmm.
and I think just like for major companies, they have done a long-term study. What separates the leaders from others is not the IP portfolio they have,
Hmm.
not which market they're in. It's none of those. Think about Apple. It's
Hmm.
execution. It's operational excellence, which for an individual translates to execution.
Right.
Right? And
Absolutely.
so that's what I want to lead the leaders with. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, for the sweet spot, uh, there's something in you that kind of maps you uh, to the sweet spot, and you bring something to the table. So, what are kind of like two, three values and strengths that make you who you are and that have helped you in execution and operational excellence in these companies?
I think one would be being optimist
Hmm.
and being positive. Life will throw a lot of different wrenches and tests at you. Doesn't matter what you do.
Hmm.
I think staying positive makes a very big difference in overcoming the adversities and coming up with the right solutions, especially in a startups are very tough,
Hmm.
right? That's why the odds of success is very low.
Right.
And but you have to maintain a positive attitude. It of course also significantly helps in sales.
Hmm.
The other I think is uh, building very strong teams, and giving them authority to get their job done and not micromanaging them,
Right.
because it's all about the team. Think about Magma. You and I were there.
Mm.
Imagine what a great team we had built, right?
Right.
And And then I'll go back to focusing on execution without worrying about the politics.
Hmm.
Because you put your head down and you just execute, 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 only good things come out.
Yeah.
Only good things.
Awesome.
Those are the three things, I think.
Okay. So, Said, you know, who were some of your role models in the professional world, right? Uh,
Yeah.
during your lifetime, and who are some of the role models in the world today, and why?
So I have honestly never thought of some of the people that I think highly of as role models,
Hmm.
right? It's just that there's so many people I have learned a lot from,
Hmm.
and and uh, and some of the and people that I admire. I mean, in my career, for instance, Gary Larson was very instrumental. He was VP of sales at ECAD when I joined it. I learned a lot from him, both from how do you manage, because he had come from IBM with that old school of how do you build things, and
Hmm.
that was very, very helpful for me. I learned positivity and from Joe Costello.
Hmm.
Um, I've learned various things from various people. And sometimes I've learned not to do things some of the leaders do, which is not good. I see that and I say, okay, that's one thing I should learn not to do, right?
Right.
Um, in the non-professional world, Carl Sagan is somebody I've admired a lot, and I still do, despite the fact that he's no longer with us. Um, uh, Hawkins,
Right.
it, it, despite his disadvantages, he
Right.
made such a big difference. Carl Sagan, popularized science,
Right.
uh, and um,
Actually, he was my favorite too. I used to watch Cosmos all the time,
yeah,
and A Brief Moment in Time, or Stephen Hawking's book.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson now is basically carrying the torch that Carl Sagan started.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, those are the kinds of, and of course we discussed earlier that my parents at an early age were my role model. I learned honesty and working hard from my dad. I learned giving love um, from my mom. My
Hmm.
dad, they were both very loving. Uh, so I would say those are
Anybody stand out in today's world?
uh, people I admire. Again, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't tend to. I mean, I was very impressed with President Obama.
Hmm.
Um, but leaders have to do good and bad.
Right.
So it's tough for me to call one person and say, wow,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
I really admired what Elon Musk did in single-handedly trying to solve one of the biggest pollutions that we have. But lately he's doing a little weird things that
Hmm.
I can't learn. Not, I mean, I think I don't try to allow politics affect um, how I think about people as because everybody does things for their own reasons, and
Right.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Uh, but I tend to admire scientists more
Mhm.
than politicians.
Right.
Anyway,
Okay, that's fair. As they say, who are we to judge? You know.
yeah,
So,
exactly,
but
exactly.
you can absorb the things that inspire you from almost everybody, right?
I think if you believe this is a scientific mind that you don't know much, you're open to learning.
Hmm.
Believe you already know all there is to know, there's
Yeah,
not much to learn, so you basically don't evolve.
that's right.
Yeah.
And you also keep an open mind and just assume you don't know it all.
Exactly.
So,
And
um,
really, how much do we know? Think about
that's
it.
right.
How much does anybody know?
Yeah. And also along the same lines, are there any favorite books that influenced you or that stand
Yeah,
out?
yeah. I like the book Guns, Germs, and Steel
Hmm.
by Jared Diamond. I like Sapiens by Yuval Hariri, and I also like his other book. I mean, I read a lot of books, but and books are a way for me to learn about other things, like Guns, Germs, and Steel, Sapiens, about history of humanity, how we evolved,
Hmm.
right? Um, but Harry wrote another book called 20 Lessons for the 21st Century, which I encourage people to read. Uh, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently because it's easier, and all my books are in my phone because I travel a lot, so I
Hmm.
can take my entire library is in my hand. These you cannot take with you, right? But
Right.
this
Right.
is with me all the time and has
Yeah.
substantially more books than that. Um,
Absolutely. I mean, why not, right? I mean, we
yeah,
have a resource that we can leverage.
yeah,
So, um, hopefully that's what would happen to this podcast too. People will listen to it and learn from
yeah.
it. And so, Said, what does Said like to do when he's not working? You know, because you said you travel a lot, and uh, how do you balance it all?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things I do. I have many different interests when it comes to recreation. If it's winter, a lot of skiing.
Hmm.
And I work out every day in the gym, except when I'm skiing because you burn a lot more calories than
Yeah.
you run. Um, I also swim at least twice a week. I do yoga. I'm really into cycling, and I
Wow.
transitioned from road bike to mountain bike because it's more sense of freedom. I'm into cars, so I go driving with a bunch of people every once in a while. Although that's not very frequent anymore. Then on the interest side, I do care a lot about the environment, which says, oh, you also cars, but my daily driver is a Tesla,
Hmm.
uh, and I encourage all my friends to switch to electric. And in general, pick habits that help the planet. That's why actually, because of health and environment, I became vegetarian 10 years ago.
Wow.
Uh, so traveling for fun, and I try to combine fun and business when I have to do business. And when I'm not traveling for business, my wife and I love traveling all over the world. Um, uh, I, I I like to learn to sail. I haven't started yet, but I'm sure I will do that.
Yeah.
Uh, Concerts, operas, you name it. There's a lot. There's a lot of interesting thing in the world.
Right.
You
Right.
know, how can you not read these amazing books
That.
or so much content on TV? I mean,
Mhm.
uh, sports. I watch a lot of different sports. So there's a lot of there's no lack of, it's actually lack of time. How much
Like
time?
of time. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. So,
But most importantly, I think not about me. I think for everyone,
mhm,
you have to enjoy your life, every second of it, because the possibility
mhm,
of being alive is so small when you look at the history of cosmos, how
mhm,
Big Bang came about. The chance of it, this version of universe is like 10 to the minus 14, according to Hawkins, I believe, if
mhm.
I'm not mistaken with the number. So there was a very, very, infinite, small chance that this type of universe came about, which
Mhm.
basically is able to support life. And then, despite the fact that now we know just about every star has 2, 3 planets, despite the enormity of the universe, all the stars and galaxies, all of that, and then by all the discoveries of planets we have not been able to communicate to one yet, which means I'm confident they exist. that probably very plentiful, but we haven't, but they're so far,
Hmm.
right? So
Right.
even possible life is so, let alone this type of life in this kind of planet and advanced civilization and
Yeah.
all fun that you could have. I think if you're not doing it, you're really missing out.
Right. But I can clearly see your fervor in doing all this. So it's amazing. I mean, the kinds of workouts you do and traveling. Any particular uh, travel or place, destination that kind of stands out in your mind that you were like blown away by? Uh,
Yeah, many. We just spent because this is my year off, although I'm consulting with several
mhm,
companies, and I've decided I go back to work next year, so I'll
mhm.
be full time again. So I won't be able to take 30 days off, which we did. So the ones that really stand out, I mean, there's a lot of great places, south of France, Italy, all of it.
Mhm,
Um, um, but the ones that really stand out, one is Bhutan, where we did a 2 week hiking trip. And it's just such a undiscovered and and very virgin place
mhm.
where the land, the forests, the mountains are so um,
Pristine, yeah.
clean. Not too many people there.
Yeah.
And then Patagonia, that's really a great place to visit and hike.
Mhm.
And I actually saw an actual avalanche. I filmed it coming down.
Wow.
That was really a
An
beautiful place.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. I'm sure we can sit down and talk about this for hours because actually, just like you, I like to travel and we should exchange notes sometime. Uh,
Anytime. Yeah.
yeah. So, Said, as we are drawing towards the end of our conversation, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs and recent graduates based on your life experience? I mean,
Yeah. Very good.
especially with especially with entrepreneurship in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I think first and foremost is take care of your body and your mind. That means exercise and get enough sleep because I have done the opposite of like not sleeping and go for a long time working hard.
Mhm,
That actually is not good at all. And I think if I've had a lot of weaknesses, but I think one of the more substantial ones is not sleeping enough.
mhm.
Because you are the machine. If you want to do great things, you have to make sure this whole thing works
Machine is up and running. Yeah.
mentally and physically, right? There is a reason in the when they give you the emergency instructions when you get on a plane, they tell you put your mask on first, then your child. Because if you could run, it's the same kind of thing. That metaphor resonates with me.
Right.
Um, so that's one. Take care of yourself first before you do. This also comes in raising children,
Hmm.
running a company or helping build a company. All that it's like raising a child too.
Hmm.
You got to be healthy in order to be able to give,
Right.
because there's a lot of giving involved, right? That's number one. The other thing I would say, some of this is cliche. They say do what you love to do, but I agree with that. You got to do what you love to do, and you shouldn't be so concerned with the outcome, because if you do it and give it love and give it your all, good things will happen. But when we're talking about startups or things that are not necessarily under your control,
Hmm.
there is a reason less than 10% of startups are successful. So be realistic while do what you love, but be realistic. For instance, if you're being hired, negotiate what you're worth. don't assume they'll be fair,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I've had it both ways,
Right.
where I gave so much and I didn't make much money.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else got rich.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being realistic here.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
also, I've also had it the other way where I negotiated the right what was my value and we agreed. And then you do all the work, you make it successful. You should, because if you're not staying in a big company which has pension and all these benefits, you are basically building your retirement funds yourself.
Right.
So you better, you know,
Yeah.
uh, be doing it right. And
Right.
so be realistic. I think a balance makes sense. And there's a lot. I would say the third one would be it comes with being positive. It's controlling your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Many of us who are on the business side have done a lot of sales, built companies. One of the driving force also um, creates a lot of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody does something wrong,
Mm-hmm.
it or they think you're being unfair. First of all, there's no such thing as fair. It's all business. So don't take things personally at all.
Right.
Never take it personally. It's all business. But I have had I have a tool. When I get upset about something that happens in the business environment that I think is unfair to me,
Right.
my is I don't respond there and then. Whether it's an email, I've had it where I have composed a long email about why these things are so unfair,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've learned by by making mistakes. Hold the email, don't send it, wait till tomorrow. And
Right.
every time I have done that, when I reread that email, I see all the emotions that I put into it, which comes across so wrong on the other side. Instead, I scrap it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can come up with the same asks, but in a positive way.
Right.
So do it in a positive way, and most of the time you get what you want
So
because
take a
people.
pause and mull over it, and then uh, desist responding right away. Right.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Always approach
Mhm.
problems from a positive and from a position of love.
Yeah.
Uh,
And all this is really battle tested advice. So thank you for that, Saeed. Also, one thing that comes to my mind while you were delineating these three things is also it's never too late to start. You know, that uh, due to various reasons, you might not have done some things that you want, but it's never too late to start. So just go for it at any stage in your life. Uh,
Totally agree with that. Look at what you have done.
right.
I am starting running worldwide sales for a small company
Mm-hmm.
as of early next year. I'm
Right.
67,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is after spending a year not having a full-time job, I decided, and I have a lot of interests, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I could just go pick up sailing, which I haven't done yet.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I want to learn and do. Um, but I thought, then how am I? It's great. I'm having fun, but I can have fun even when I work.
Yeah.
So how am I helping the world? Right?
Right.
That thing that especially entrepreneurs and that drives us
Mm-hmm.
is really is like, how am I? Yeah, I'm gonna make money, all of that. But how am I helping the world?
Right.
Because the world needs to evolve. We all know that. What is your role in
That's
helping? I think that gives you ultimate satisfaction. So I decided I got to get back in,
right.
and
Got to be
so
engaged, right?
everything, right?
Make a difference. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
awesome. Any final thoughts in general outside of entrepreneurship that you'd like
yeah,
to leave my viewers with?
yeah. I do because I've lectured a few times to entrepreneurs in various settings, and this is the same thing that I usually tell them.
Mhm.
And I don't think you can say it enough. Um, entrepreneurs affect the society and the planet, um, especially when they're successful.
Right.
I think if you've had the fortune of being in a position that has enabled you to be a successful entrepreneur, you owe a debt of gratitude to
Mhm.
the society because the difference really, yeah, of course, work hard, all of that. But if
Mhm.
you were born in a very, very difficult, impoverished place and your parents couldn't put you in school, you wouldn't be here. So this accident of birth
Mhm.
really makes a difference. And so I think that's luck. And I think those who have been successful obviously have worked hard and all that, but but I think they've been also very lucky. So we owe a debt of gratitude to to the planet and to the people.
Mhm.
So when you are working towards your success, remember that and do the responsible thing.
Right.
Could, for instance, um, develop something that consumes more fossil fuel and even makes the planet worse,
Mhm.
or you can even that you can do responsibly, by the way,
Yeah.
or you can be working on taking care of do a scalable, inexpensive carbon capture because this planet is we're making it more sick, and
Right.
which we're killing ourselves. I mean, that's just one area. My point is, whatever you do, when you achieve success and on your way, build a responsible company and take care of the people and the environment because that's the right thing to do.
It's your way of giving back the least you can do, right?
Yeah, take that responsibility that comes with the pleasure and with the luck, with the all the fortune that's been awarded to you to be in that position. Take that responsibility very seriously.
Thank you, Saeed. Words well spoken. Saeed, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate what all the wisdom you imparted in the last hour or so, and want to acknowledge you for everything I've learned from you. And I'm sure my viewers will be motivated by what you did and your words of advice. uh, I also want to wish you the best of luck for your new venture next year. And please stay in touch. Take care and thank you again.
Thank you, Pesh. I really appreciate you giving me this platform to express my views and hopefully help some entrepreneurs to do better for themselves and for the world. Um, I, I appreciate your friendship, and we should get together for lunch or something and exchange notes about places to
Travel.
travel.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.